Many people dream of money and success. But not everyone comes to these things, but only the the smartest and most cunning, who understand what laws and rules this world lives by and how one should behave in it in order to achieve success. Success can vary. For some people, success is the presence of a large amount of money and a high position in society, while for others, success is the implementation of some great idea of their own, the achievement of some significant goal in which a person sees meaning. For example, you can give birth and raise many children who will become a worthy continuation of your family. They will become human, occupy a high position in society and find happiness that their parents, that is, you, could not find. This will be a great success, both for the children themselves and for you, their parents. Also, the large amount of money that a person has earned thanks to his intelligence, work, perseverance and determination is undoubtedly an indicator of his success. In other words, if you achieved what you wanted, if you brought your plans to life, then you are a successful person. In this article we will talk about how to achieve success and money, regardless of what exactly each of you considers success for yourself. Why do you need to live? What to strive for and why do something in this life? You decide for yourself. This is your right. This is your personal matter. I will only help you understand how to use this right. I warn you, the article is strong. That's why it's so big. It will completely change your mind if you not only read it, but also think about it properly. You have never read anything like this anywhere before. I am absolutely sure of it. I put a lot of valuable things into this article: knowledge, feelings, soul, life experience, both my own and others, and even a little mysticism. I share with you what guides me in life and what helps me achieve success in various matters. The main thing is that you understand what I want to convey to you, then my words will change your life once and for all. And words have magical power in the human world. If you say the right things correctly, you can change the whole world. And this article will at least change your thinking. After which you will look at this world with different eyes. So don't be slack, read carefully and be sure to read to the end to get the maximum benefit from this material. Let's get started. If you remember, in one of my articles I touched on a very interesting and to some extent even mystical topic regarding the clues that life gives us, or one might also say, the clues of God, or the clues of the universe, depending on your beliefs and ideas about measure. These tips guide us through life, protect us from everything bad and allow us to achieve certain goals. These tips really exist and they allow us to choose the right directions in life and make the right decisions, thanks to which we can find success in a variety of things, including getting big money with their help, if we want. Unfortunately, I don't remember in which article one wrote about this, and to be honest, I'm too lazy to look for it now in order to send you to it and refresh your memory, because I don't want to lose my mind. In it, I promised to return to this very important topic and consider it in more detail, both from the point of view of my own life experience, and from the point of view of the experience of other people more successful than me, with whom I had the opportunity to communicate and who also listen to what life tells them. Well, since I promised to return to this topic, now I am fulfilling my promise. If you learn to notice these tips and begin to follow them, believe me, your life will change dramatically. It will become much more fun, interesting, meaningful and, of course, more successful. Money and success is just part of what you can come to by taking advantage of life's clues and realizing your full personal potential. Look at your life more broadly. A person is not fed up with bread alone. There are things that are much more important than money, as well as success in some matters that are not so important for a person. Keep in mind that living for money and money alone is unlikely to make you a truly happy person. For some people, success is generally everything that other people value. For example, This is pathos in which there is absolutely no meaning. It only allows you to express yourself in a certain way in a group, but is often not able to make a person happy. And for others, success is the ability to achieve goals that are important to them, specifically for themselves, and not for someone else. So success is different from success. I believe that in order to strive for goals that are truly important to you, from the point of view of common sense, you need to understand what life is trying to explain to you, through certain events that regularly occur in your life. Let's find out how this can be done. Let's start with what one very smart person suggested that I start with at one time, teaching me to solve a variety of problems and tasks in my life. He explained to me how this world works and what role man plays in it. We will start by understanding what you and I have and why. Many people complain about their lives, saying that they are unlucky, that their life is bad, it is impossible to achieve anything in it, their starting conditions are bad, they have no talents, they have no intelligence, God has turned away from them and all that stuff. In general, from their words it turns out that their life is not working out and they have nothing, because they are unlucky, because their fate is like this. And this, as they say, is not their fault. They believe that people become rich or poor from birth, so to speak, by the will of fate. But nothing depends on the person himself. I, too, once believed that I was simply unlucky in life and that my fate was not happy, so I didn't have what I wanted. But let's look at ourselves from the outside and think about whether everything is really so bad for us, and whether everything is so bad for those who say that they have no luck in life and that life has treated them unfairly. In most cases, these are people who have arms, legs, some kind of head on their shoulders. These are people without any serious health problems that would limit their capabilities. That is, they have the opportunity to change their lives, or better yet, build it the way they want. And at the same time, as I already said, they believe that they have an unhappy fate, that they are unlucky, that God has turned away from them, and so on. But in reality this is not the case. They just need to understand what led them to the life they have and what needs to be done to build another life. It is necessary to study cause and effect relationships and patterns that underlie this or that life. Do you know how our life began? Since each of us once, when we were a sperm, turned out to be the fastest and most agile, reaching the egg first. And then there were many more happy accidents that ultimately allowed us to grow up, get back on our feet, learn to read and write, and thanks to this, gain knowledge useful for life, and of course do something with our own hands and with our own heads. You have won small and big victories and thanks to them you have survived and come to what you came to. Now, being on opposite sides of the monitor, you and I are engaged in sharing knowledge with each other, including knowledge about the money that I am transferring to you and which allows us not only to survive in this harsh, sometimes unfair and even cruel, but nevertheless an interesting world, but also to achieve great success in it. What the hell are we losers? Yes, you and I are lucky ones who will show this world where crayfish spend the winter. We are alive and we can move forward. Well, the fact that some of us do not yet have the amount of money that we would like to have, and our successes are very modest, as all trifles. Not everyone is friends at once. Only cats will be born quickly. So there's no need to rush, we all still have one end ahead. But it is difficult to predict what we will achieve during our lives. For as long as we are alive, anything is possible. So, as you can see, you and I once became winners. Having reached the egg, now you and I have much more resources to win and achieve new results that are no less important for our lives, no less bright victories. And that smart man who taught me life told me never to forget that from birth I was none other than a winner who had earned the right to life. What I have because of my abilities, which need to continue to be developed in order to achieve more. And to be honest, This thought still helps me overcome difficulties that sometimes bring me to my knees and force me to give up, force me to accept defeat. But you can't wait, while the blood flows in my veins, while my lungs fill with air, and while I can move at least one finger, I won't give up. Therefore, I suggest that you do not forget that each of you is a winner from birth, the best of the millions of other sperm that you once beat, fighting for the right to live. Our past is the foundation of our present. Therefore, you need to rely on it, striving for even greater heights. And life will help us in this. It will guide us along the right path. We just need to listen to it. Let's now see exactly how life, God, the universe, speaks to us and helps us. Life speaks to us in the language of life circumstances. And in order to learn to understand this language, you need, firstly, to be attentive to everything that happens to you in life. Even to the most, at first glance, insignificant little things, and secondly, to reflect, like philosophers, on everything that happens to you, especially what forces you to suffer. For it is suffering that forces us to change something in our lives and strive for something. At the same time, pleasure and joy also push a person forward. But this method of motivation is not suitable for everyone. We have too many people who want more and more, but do little to do it. But suffering and pain can stir anyone up. Therefore, with their help, life is much easier for us to explain something. In our lives, as you know, a lot of interesting things happen that motivate us to take certain actions. Money attracts us, but poverty and low social status force us to suffer. And with the help of such simple things that evoke either positive or negative emotions in us, life leads a person through the nooks and crannies of fate from early childhood. It leads him to the light, to all the best, to the heights of his capabilities, trying to protect him from everything bad. It helps us feel the falsity, danger, and error of certain of our actions, when, for example, as a child, once at school, you begin to feel that all the knowledge you receive in it is somehow not such that something is wrong in them. It's not that you don't need them at all, but you do, of course. But you feel that you don't need much of this knowledge at the moment. You feel that they are not paramount to you, that there is something that you miss by wasting time gaining knowledge that you do not need at the moment. You can't explain this state with logic, because for logic, you and I are given certain knowledge, using which we build our own logical chains, discussing, among other things, such things as our own benefit, our own interests, our own goals in life. The point is that we think about one thing and don't think about the other. This is where our learning of life begins. For example, such important things for life as money and power are little discussed at school, or even not discussed at all. This means that we think little about them, at least in a constructive manner. We don't understand this, but we feel it. We are taught what is important to the system, but not what is important and useful to each of us individually. And this is not surprising. After all, few people will teach you to please yourself, especially in public places. You are taught in order to make you a cog for a system that, due to technological progress, needs more and more competent slaves, all sorts of engineers, programmers and other highly qualified, black people. And all your logic is directed towards achieving precisely this goal. You are taught to make a career for yourself according to the rules of the system. So, guided by someone else's base in the form of secondary knowledge, you come to what most other people come to. And now you have what the school and other educational institutions in which you studied gave you. Decide for yourself how great an achievement this is for you. Then your chains of logical reasoning, the length of which is, of course, different for all people, depending on their level of development, led you to an unpleasant and relatively low-paid job, to which you and not only you, but all of us, give our whole lives. Well, that's the rule. It also happens that a person is drawn from his work. But now let's talk about the more common negative attitude of people towards their work. So this is the kind of work where you do something that you don't really like to do, but because you have to make a living somehow, you have to do it and you put up with your work. This is clearly not what we came to this world for. Most people don't like this life justified. They suffer from the fact that they cannot live a freer life while engaging in creative activities. We come to such a life thanks to our natural essence and the logic that can only work with the knowledge that we have received and are receiving and which we ultimately have. It is clear that this is how the world works, that someone in it must do not the most pleasant work. But think about it, why should you play the role of a loaded donkey in it, forced to plow on its owner day after day? But because this role was imposed on you, and you were unable to protect yourself from it. If a person is given incorrect knowledge, then no matter what ideal logic he has, he will not squeeze anything useful out of this knowledge. He will do what is logical to do, even if it leads him to results that are unfavorable for himself. But intuition and attention, coupled with common sense, these are more serious things that are worth relying on when making life decisions. They can lead us to success and money, or better yet, to the knowledge with which we can earn a lot of money and achieve success. So it is precisely by intuition and common sense, the health of which is tested by the effectiveness of our actions, that we can test our logic and the knowledge on which it is based. Relying on intuition and relying on common sense also requires knowledge, which you can gain primarily through your observation. By observing something or anyone, you gain the highest quality knowledge that is not distorted by the opinions and hidden interests of other people. Life teaches you, showing you what patterns there are in this world. You only need to pay attention to them, remember and think about them. Remember, you are the same winner who once earned the right to life, and now how actively you will study the world around you, learning from everything that surrounds you, depends on how you go through your life path. It all starts with intuition, we have it from birth and it tells us what to do in a given situation. And then knowledge and thinking come into play, they need to be acquired and developed. After all, it's not enough to just intuitively feel something. You also need to understand what exactly and why you felt, and for this you need to rely on your own and other people's life experiences, thanks to which we learn. And when you think about how you, say, make money, just pay attention to those people who are already making it. Life shows you everything, so just look and think about what you see. Many knowledge lies on the surface, it is accessible to everyone. You just need to take it and apply it. This is what life pushes us to do, creating discomfort for us. At the same time, we are not talking about any special knowledge, or about too much of it. We are talking about knowledge that broadly explains the laws of this world. Anyone can master this knowledge. Another thing is that in a ready-made, structured form, where everything is laid out and carefully explained, this knowledge is difficult to find. Therefore, quality education has always been expensive. This is still the case, despite the abundance of information on the internet. Try it, figure it out yourself, without outside help. And yet, there are some sources of information that can help us understand some of the patterns in life. I have already written that the sacred scriptures and some other sources of knowledge, including scientific ones, with their correct interpretation, can explain to us the most important laws of the universe. However, not every one of us can, reading the same Bible, understand what exactly it explains in certain words, and how to use the knowledge in it. But this knowledge is the very knowledge about this world that, in a unique form, explains to us what and how it works in it. Yes, they are outdated, but they are working. Therefore, in order to use the clues of life, the clues of God, you need not only to feel, but also to know what and why you feel, comparing your feelings with the feelings of other people that you can learn about in smart books, including religious ones, including scientific ones. It is better to combine one with the other, as many smart and rich people do. They are open to all knowledge. But as for science, essentially a new religion, it is still too weak to be able to answer all the questions. She splits the world into many parts and studies each one individually. By doing science, you can drown in details, terms, a lot of data, without knowing the whole. Science is a cool thing, simply awesome, but at the same time too complex for most people to quickly learn to think systematically and study all the most significant cause and effect relationships for us. However, someday science will develop to such an extent that knowledge about life in it will be more, let's say, generalized, holistic, interconnected and more understandable to a wide audience. Science must be understandable and accessible to most people in order to be practical and effective, so that with its help we can understand what exactly life tells us and why. And then more people will be able to use its capabilities, striving for success and money. In the meantime, we can study cause and effect relationships with easier to study religious literature that contains valuable, albeit very confusing and somewhat outdated, knowledge. True, for this you need to understand it correctly. I say this because I know people who earn quite a lot of money and take the same Bible very seriously, in which they find a lot of useful advice. Even Boris Berezovsky wrote that you need to read the Bible and understand it correctly in order to understand life. So one way to learn something from life is to learn what the wisdom of many generations contains. Some things, for example, I understand better through scientific knowledge, and others through religious texts. Let's say, when some people talk about God, they don't even understand what they're talking about. But understanding God is understanding the system in which we live and according to the rules of which we act. Knowing how it works and how it works, we can significantly increase the number of correct decisions that we have to make many times every day. There are people who believe in God without understanding what it is, and there are those who do not believe in God, that is, atheists who also don't know what God is. Therefore, some say that God exists, while others say that there is no God, and everyone believes that he is right. But how to prove or refute the presence of God? How to justify your faith in God or explain your disbelief in him? After all these, I believe it or not, are not suitable for ours orientations in this world. You either understand what we are talking about or you don't. You cannot make fateful decisions based on your faith or unbelief. To explain what God is, it is necessary to define the concept of this word. Until we understand what or who we are talking about, there is nothing to argue about. Below I will explain why we are talking about this. So, you can, for example, look at this question from the point of view of dialectical materialism, which says that God is a set of higher laws of nature in relation to man, which for simplicity are called in one word, God. And the person who first formulated these laws is called the Son of God. In my opinion, this is a good explanation, and quite reasonable, based on the history of the emergence of religions. I'm not saying that this is exactly the case, that the point of view of dialectical materialism is, from my point of view, the most correct, more suitable for the systemic worldview, with the help of which we need to understand what and how works in this world. Why some people are successful and others are not. Some are rich and others are poor. Some have power and others are forced to obey. After all these things can definitely be explained by some kind of patterns. This means that you need to learn about these patterns in order to adjust your behavior to them. So you must agree, if you look at all these discussions about God in this way, as a set of higher laws, then you don't need to prove anything, because it is absolutely obvious that nature, the universe, has certain laws in relation to man, and they are indestructible. Science also studies and explains them. In other words, there is no need to prove God. He needs to be understood correctly. So, what does all this talk about God have to do with the topic of money and success? And the most immediate thing, after all, what is success? Is a person's realization of his plans. This is a positive result in this or that important matter for him. This is a person's achievement of his goals. That is, having conceived something and realized our plans, we materialize the images born in our head and call this making a dream come true, success. Some call success luck in achieving something. But luck is some kind of pattern, understood or not understood by us. Most often not understood. That's why we talk about luck as a pure accident, and not a pattern. What allows us to achieve success? What makes it natural for us to achieve our goals, which will ultimately allow us to be successful in our affairs? Our solutions, that's what. How often we achieve success in various matters will depend on the correctness of our decisions. And for our decisions to be correct, we must know about the cause and effect and investigative causal connections that exist in this world, which is impossible if we do not know the very laws of nature that dialectical materialism calls God. That's why I started talking about God, or, if you like, about the laws of nature, the laws of the universe, the laws of life. We encounter them from birth and live by them all our lives. Knowing these laws and how they work will allow you to make the right decisions in each specific situation, and therefore achieve success in different matters. We need to take a systematic approach to solving this problem, as well as all other problems. For this, we will be helped by everyone, both religion and science, which from different sides and in different ways explain the universe as a system, so that we can understand what parts it consists of and what functions it has, and can also learn about the life cycles of its numerous subsystems, which will allow us to understand what patterns exist in this world and how to manage them. So you want to get a lot of money and the question arises, what needs to be done for this? You can earn money, you can steal it, you can take it away from other people, you can force people to voluntarily give you their money, you can come up with and print money. A lot of things can be done. Which decision is best to make? What decision will be right for you? For what situation is this or that decision appropriate? How should you act after making a particular decision? Don't know? But think about what your life would be like, if you knew it. The same is the life of a peasant who knows when and what kind of crop needs to be planted in order to reap a bountiful harvest in the fall. By knowing the laws of nature, in the broadest sense of the word, you can make you significantly more likely to make the right decisions that will lead you to exactly what you want, not problems. In our time, as I have already said, the laws of the universe described in the sacred scriptures are naturally replaced by science, which also explains and studies these laws. And we must study everything that will allow us to understand the important patterns of this world. It doesn't matter what sources you use to benefit from them. If we treat science as a research activity, then the scientific approach should be to everything, including what was once written by someone in the sacred scriptures. We must understand, whenever possible, how everything around us works in order to be able to manage it. It doesn't matter where we get knowledge about the laws of this world. The main thing is that they are understandable to us and, most importantly, work. Then we will be able to rely on these laws, explaining certain life circumstances with the help of which life communicates with us. Then we can hear what she tells us and shows us. And by listening to her tips, we will be able to make the right decisions and achieve success in any matter that is important to us. Therefore, before answering the above questions, you need to think carefully about what you even know about money and how complete your knowledge is. So, as I already said, life, or even fate, can be said, gives us hints and directs us in the right direction, in the direction that allows us to develop and realize our personal potential. Therefore, even without some important knowledge, you can and should be able to use these tips. If you are attentive to everything that surrounds you and what happens to you, you can, at a minimum, not disappear in this life without excess knowledge. I understand it this way: the universe is expanding, developing, improving, that is, it is becoming more complex and reducing the number of mistakes that do not allow it to reach some goal, to some new state for it, and accordingly, it expects from us, from its components, the same development. That is, the universe is like a single organism that grows and develops, and we, people and other living and inanimate beings, cells of this organism, which are valuable to it as a single whole, but do not have much significance each individually. Therefore, the universe, life, directs us in the direction necessary for it and for us, developing itself, and whether we move in this direction or not, depends on our mind. We're intelligent creatures, aren't we? This means that we must use our minds to make wise decisions, and if we do not do this, then the universe does not need us, because it has enough lower beings even without us. We will not develop, others will develop. In this case, we will move into the category of mistakes that the universe needs to eliminate. So, since the universe, life speaks to us in the language of life circumstances, then we need to pay our attention to these very circumstances in order, at least through our observations, to draw some practical conclusions with the help of which we can see a pattern in accidents. We want to achieve success, and not stupidly walk in circles or bang our heads against a joint. You want to become a rich person, don't you? Then pay attention to everything that happens to you in life, to what causes you suffering and to what pleases and inspires you, what gives you pleasure and fills you with strength, makes you strive for something. These are all pointers to where you should be going. Life circumstances always, remember, always talk to us. That is, the universe speaks to us. God speaks to us constantly. Let's think better. What are these circumstances that we should pay attention to? Think about them and make the right decisions based on our conclusions? As I said, I see and understand that we need to pay attention first of all to the difficulties and problems in our lives that cause us pain and discomfort, for they are the very words with which the universe, life tries to explain and show us something. Pleasure and joy are also quite convincing in terms of explaining to us what we need to do. But they are often false, often forcing us not so much to strive for something as to degrade, which many do, with the help of base pleasures. But pain and suffering, they explain to us more clearly what we should not do, and it is they who force us to strain ourselves and make the necessary efforts in order to solve some problem and succeed in something. Remember the sperm that you once were. Wasn't it the difficulties and obstacles it needed to overcome in order for you to now sit and read this article? So why now, as an adult and a certain educated person, should you dream that there will be as few or no difficulties in your life as possible, and that all problems will bypass you? If you want it, then you go against the universe, against God. You don't want to strain, you don't want to think, you don't want to do something? Do you want money and success? So you are a mistake. So I repeat, to succeed you need to be attentive to everything that makes you uncomfortable. That is a problem for you. That makes you think this way, and not just go with the flow. A person won't think if everything is fine with him. He will simply slowly decompose, enjoying everything he can. Therefore, he needs pain, suffering, discomfort, problems, to remain human. This is how I understand life's clues so far. I pay attention to the difficulties and problems that it creates for me and draw conclusions from this that she wants from me. I cannot know more, since now, unfortunately, I do not have teachers who would pass on to me the innermost knowledge that explains in general terms the most important laws of this world for us. So you have to learn yourself, listening to what life says. Still, we need to understand the pattern of every pain, every suffering, every problem we face. and especially those that other people face. Otherwise, we will find out some things too late. For example, you will study to become some specialist whose work is not valued, respected and not adequately paid, but you do not understand this. And it turns out that you spent a lot of time studying something that gives you nothing but suffering. Therefore, study the pain and suffering of other people, use a systematic approach to study them, connecting everything with everything, and thus look for patterns in them. Many people have already made all the mistakes necessary for your learning. They made these mistakes so that you could learn from them. So you don't need to fill your own bumps. Study the scriptures, the same Bible, for example. It describes many eternal truths that will help you understand what actions are worth doing and what are not and why. Just do this with the help of those people who understand all this writing, and do not moralize with its help. Of course, a scientific approach to studying this world is also needed. The more you know about how the world works, the easier it will be for you to succeed in it. In some cases, I myself use an exclusively scientific approach to solve certain problems. And it happens that I turn to what was written hundreds and thousands of years ago to understand what remains unchanged in this world. In other words, I use all the knowledge I have to achieve the result I need and look for new knowledge wherever possible, rather than narrowing my thinking or pushing it into strict boundaries, using only selected sources of information. You will never succeed if you limit yourself in your capabilities, narrowing your view of the knowledge available in this world, considering some of it to be the ultimate truth and others to be absolute garbage.